not y, I'm sorry, x equals 1. I just get a 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what's it going to be for 2? It's going to be super steep up at 16. So sorry, I'm going to turn my paper here. And then steep. Okay, hopefully that is seeable. Okay. Hopefully that made good sense. I think the hardest part of this is understanding that there's no x-intercept because there's nothing that x can be. Now, again, I don't like doing it by, hey, look at it and what can x be? That's kind of like a guess and check method. I'd rather do it mathematically, but we have to get a little bit further into the math before we can come back and take the log of both sides or something like that to bring down the x, or to use the definition of a log, which we will, but right now we're not quite there yet. Okay, and then we were supposed to talk about the domain. Domain is all reals. The range is 0 to infinity, and this sucker is increasing. Okay. Look at us go. I'm going to give you 20 seconds there to get all dialed in. I'm trying to be nice and give think time, not my strength. Okay, so now let's do the same thing a couple more times. It's using the same base, which is nice because it kind of allows us to see all those shifts. That's not an accident, friends. That's on purpose. Okay? Okay. All right, so here we go. So now we've got fx plus 1 to the x, or I'm sorry, not f. F of x is equal to 4 to the x plus 1. And so let's start with our x-intercept. And if we're looking at an x-intercept, we want y to equal 0. So we're going to go 0 equals 4 to the x plus 1. Again, there's nothing I can do to this to make it equal 0. There's nothing I can put in right here that's going to make this little guy equal 0. There's nothing I can put in. So there is none. That's going to be the case whenever there's not a k value over here, just so you know. And then y-intercept wise, this is when we let x equal 0. And when we let x equal 0, what am I doing? Who am I? Where are we? Oh, here. Okay. So I get that. So y equals 4. So this one's going to be 0, 4. And asymptote is going to be, is there a k value over here? Nope, so it's still just that. So let's put that info on. Beautiful graph, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then now I'm going to do an x and a y chart. Okay, so I'm going to do this time, I'm going to do it in my head. Should I do that? Let me see. I mean, I could do it in my head. I don't want to freak you guys out. So if I put a -2 plus 1, so y is going to equal 1/4, because this gives me a -1. So 4 to the -1 is 1/4. Okay, and then now I'm going to do the same thing with the -1. That's going to give me 0, which is, it's going to give me 4 to the 0, which is 1. And then, oops, let's see, can you see still, hopefully? And then now if I do it with a 1, that's going to give me 16. And if I do it with a 2, that's going to give me 64. Obviously, these two are not going to make it onto my graph, but they still give me important information because they tell me that this sucker's steep. So here's what I'm doing. Let's see. At -1, I'm going to go to 1. And at -2, I'm going to go to 1/4. And at 1, I'm going to go up to 16, which is steep. So I hope you recognize, I'm going to skip back here. If you go back one slide to this graph and the graph we just did are exactly the same, but I'm picking this one up and shifting it one to the left. So this value right here, I shifted one to the left and it's now there. This one's now here, this one's now here. So I literally, if you could look at these, can we look at them side by side, maybe? If you look at them side by side, they're the same graph. It's just this one is the original parent. This one has been shifted. Everything's been shifted over 1 to the, what do you call that thing? Over to the left, because this says +1, which means go left 1. So they're the same graph. Hopefully you can take a good look at that and see it. Okay, great. So what's this going to, oh, my bad. So we got to talk about domain range. Domain is going to be all reals. Range is going to be 0 on up to infinity. And this little sucker is increasing. Okay. Now, I hope you're seeing some things happening, some patterning here. This one's going to be a little different on your x-intercept. So your x-intercept is when something happens. What happens? You let y equals 0 for your x-intercept. So we're going to have 0 equals 4 to the x minus 2. Now we're going to, now we've got something to do. Let's move the 2 over. Tricky business. Well, I'm going to be a little tricky right now because, again, if we knew how to use our definition of logs to break this down, it would be a little bit easier right here. So I'm going to go cray-cray math on you. And I'm going to take this 4 and make it base 2. These are the same thing because I'm rewriting this as 2 to the second times that x out there, so it's going to look like that. And this is 2 to the first. So do you see that x needs to be 1/2, I hope. Now, I know you probably don't like me for that right there. I get it. I would not like it either. Let me think if there's a better way to tell you how to do it. No, not really. There is a better way to tell you how to do it, but I can't do it right now. So, so yeah, good luck with that. Sorry, that's terrible teaching. Yeah, good talk. Let's see. Okay, good talk. I really have nothing else for you. 1/2 0 is going to be right like that. Okay, so now let's do the y-intercept. Let me think about that. Maybe I can come up with something a little bit better than what I just said. 4 to the 0 minus 2. So this is going to be y equals 1 minus 2. So y must equal -1. So this is going to be 0, -1, 0, -1, something like that. And then now we've got, am I still on page? Yeah, okay, so now we've got to look at our asymptote. So our asymptote has changed. Our asymptote is now going to be our k value, so it has shifted down. The whole graph is shifted down, meaning the asymptote has as well. So the asymptote is now right here, which makes sense with the two things that we've plotted. So now let's see. Now let's do an x and a y chart. I'm going to shift this up just a little bit. No math pun intended. Shift it up. Okay, so I'm going to put in, I'm going to do -2 and -1 and 1 and 2. See how those go. So -2 is going to give me, you can use your calculator to do this if you want. 4 to the -2 minus 2, it's going to be some decimal. I don't know what. I'll come back to it in a second. I've got my calculator here, but I'm being lazy. It's going to be really small if you were curious. And my guess is it's going to be somewhere right in there. But we still need to do the math on it. You can use your calculator to do it. This one's going to be this, -2, which is going to be 1/4 minus 2, which is, am I right, by the way? Yeah. Okay, so this is going to be what, -1 3/4, which you can do that on your calculator. I have no problem with you getting a decimal, but that's basically going to be right here. And then if I do 1 and 2, you like how I'm not even putting anything over here? Let's try this again. -1 3/4. Now if I put a 1 in, I'm going to have equals 4 to the 1 minus 2, so that's going to be what, a 2? And then if we put a 2 in, so that's going to be what, 16, so it's going to be y equals 14, and I don't care because it's too big, it just tells me it's steep. So it's going to look something like this. Okay, so let's use our calculator really quick. I'll give you a second to do that while you're copying. And I'm going to just double check and see what I get for that. You do have to be able to use your calculator. That is an important skill. So this is going to be negative 1.94. So that is really low, like right there, like we had it. Okay, friends, I'll give you a second to catch up. What I'm really looking for, okay, I've got to think about this a little bit more. I hope that there's not too many problems that you have to do where you are shifting down, because when you shift down is when you're going to cross the x-axis, which is when this is going to be a tricky problem for us. If it shifts up, if this is a plus right here, then we don't have to deal with it yet. I promise you I will teach you how to do this. If you're struggling with it, see if you can keep on keeping on without, and then we'll talk about this. I need to think about, I mean, this is a legit way to do it. This is, let me write that over here a little bit better. 2 to the first equals 2 to the 2x. So that's a legit way. So what did we have? We had 2 equal 4 to the x. So I took the 4 and I broke it down into 2 to the second times that x. And now what you do is you go 1 equals 2x because you want these two things to equal each other basically. And so then you divide both sides by 2. So that's how I got x equals 1/2. If you followed that, that's a good way to do these problems. It's a very legit way to do it. It's easy. You don't have to go grab a calculator or anything. What we're going to learn as we go through chapter 3, though, is, and if you can remember how to do it, you could take the log of both sides, or you could use the definition of a logarithm to break that down and get the 1/2 that way. But I don't want to get into that right now. So do your best with that, and if you get stuck, then move on to the rest of the problem, and we'll come back to that. Okay, I think we have 2 more of exactly the same. I'm getting bored. And I'm guessing you don't want to listen to me for forever. So this problem right here, you can go ahead and try it on your own, but basically what it's going to do is it's going to take our graph and it's going to reflect everything down. So what was here is going to be here. What was 1, 1, 2, 3, 4 is now going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and the graph is going to look like this. Okay, so sorry, I'm not going to take the time to do that when I feel like I'm boring you to tears. Oh, you know what, on the last one, sorry to jump around. On the last one, I never answered the rest of it, which was domain. Sorry, domain is going to be all reals still. Range is going to be -2 to infinity, and this is still increasing. Sorry about that to jump around, but I forgot. I wanted to make sure I did a good job at that. So, okay. So that's what this one looks like, is basically the same stuff. It's reflecting down. But now in terms of domain, all reals. In terms of range, this graph is going to be negative. And so the domain on this one is all reals. The range on this one is going to be negative infinity all the way up to 0. And then it's going to stop. And then now this guy, if you put your finger on the graph, it's actually decreasing. Okay, so that gave you something to think about. This guy right here is the same graph, except for because of this negative, it's going to reflect it across the y-axis. So what normally would be right here, that point's going to stay the same. Then I'd normally go over 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's actually going to reflect across. And then normally I'd be right here. That's going to reflect across, and the graph is going to be steep like that, and then come down and get really close right there. So you can go through the Y-intercept and the asymptotes and all that good stuff. You can go through that process. In terms of the domain is going to be all reals. The range is going to be from 0 to infinity. And this guy, is it increasing or decreasing? It is decreasing. It's getting smaller as you read from left to right. Okay, so I wanted to do one more together. One of these guys, let's see which one looks like it's more fun. do the last one. All right, so we'll go through this because I've been making you take notes for 33 minutes right now, which sounds horrifying. Okay, so let's see, graph, identify, blah, 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 all the same stuff. So it says just give the, so, ooh, we changed the directions. I'm guessing that's because we weren't sure how to make you do it right here. We asked you just for the y-intercept, not for the x-intercept. So let's do our y-intercept. And we're gonna do, later on we'll be able to find the x-intercept, but I'm guessing that's why we changed the directions. So let x equals 0. So I'm gonna get y equals -2 to the first minus 3, right? Because if I put a 0 in here, so this is gonna be -5, I believe. So it's gonna be 0, -5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's weird. Now I need to look at my asymptote. So to find my asymptote, I look right there. So my asymptote is going to be, don't tell me it's -3, it's y equals -3. Okay, so now I need to graph this. And I'm going to do -2, -1, 1, 2. I should give myself some space there. Okay, so this one is going to be -2. If I put in my -2, that's going to give me a -1 minus 3. So what is this? This is crappy. This is 1/2 right here, right? So this is actually -1/2 minus 3. So that's what? -3.5. So at -2, 1, 2, I should be at 3.5, -3.5 right there. Okay, now -1, so I've got -2. If I put in a -1, that actually gives me a 0 minus 3. This, ooh, this one's gonna be tricky. Tricky. Okay, so this is gonna confuse you. Now check it out. What's 2 to the 0? That's 1 times a -1 out front is a -1 minus 3. This is -4. I'll say that again. I know you guys want that. If there were parentheses around this -2 to the 0, then it'd be 1. But because it's -2 to the 0, 2 to the 0 is the only thing, or the only thing to 0 is 2. So that's going to be my 1 right there. And then I've got this negative in front. So it's actually a -1 minus 3. So you have to be really careful with your tricky negatives right there. Blah, blah, blah. So -1 is -4. Nailed it. I can tell by the way my graph's looking. All right, so now if I get 1, I'm going to do -2 to the second minus 3. So this is -4 for the same reason I just said a second ago. That's a -4. Minus 3 is -7. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then finally, let's do 2. This is going to be -8 minus 3 is that -11, I hope. Let me double check. 2 would give you a 3. That's going to be 8, -8. Yep. So that's just steep. I'm not going to actually do that one. Let me turn my paper so I can do my... Okay, something like that. Okay. How does that look? How does that feel? Okay, we got to answer our questions here. Domain, all reals. Range, -infinity to -3, I think. And then the graph is decreasing. Nailed it! Whoop, whoop. Sorry for such a long thing of notes, cuties. I apologize for you having to suffer through this. You know I love you. Okay, last thing here. Here's your homework. So you've got the rest of the period to work on these. I expect an excellent report from the sub on how amazing you were. If this is period 2 listening, Aurelie, if you could please show the sub, our dear sub, where my books are. I've got 2 books. You guys can use your phones if it's okay with the sub to take pictures of the bookwork, and then I want you to go back to your seat and get on it. And I want to hear great things from the sub about how you worked really, really hard the entire period and got all of this homework done. And the only thing you're going to bring to me on Tuesday is questions that you have from this homework. Okay, I hope you have a great weekend. Much love. Be safe. Make good decisions. And I will see you on Tuesday. If you want to come in and see me on Monday, you can. I miss you guys. Bye.